Ndị be anyị keneni m unu. Anyị sịkwa ụbọchị nke taa mara na Igbo na mma. Anyị sịkwa ka nke onye chiri ya zelụ. Ndị Igbo, ihe a bụ Eastern News 24 mgbe anyị na-ewetara ya bụ ozi. Unu je gị ugbu a n'iru akwụkwọ biko tọọ ntị n'ala dịka ihe anụ ya bụ ife. Update a bụ according to one of our brother, a great Biafran activist wetara n'iru akwụkwọ. So biko tọọ ntị ka ị gee ya bụ ife. Right, over to you. Breaking news. Maazị Nnamdi Kanu head back to Supreme Court to challenge 2023 Supreme Court Hellenius Loaning. Hear the news in details.
In the case of Kanu, frankly speaking, the charges can hardly be proved. One of the kinds is sedition. Sedition was pronounced illegal and unconstitutional in 1983 in the case of Arthur Nwankwo and the state. So I don't know, I can't see how some of those charges will stand in law. So the choice before the government is to have this matter resolved politically.
It is a breaking news that Nnamdi Kanu heads back to Supreme Court to challenge 2023 erroneous ruling. I am not a lawyer, so there are some angle I wouldn't, like to put mouth when it comes to issue of Nnamdi Kanu court proceedings. But I found interest in this right from the beginning. So that is why if I see something like this, I'll first of all refer to a lawyer, ask him what is the meaning of this. Because when I saw this, I said, where is Nnamdi Kanu dragging Nigeria government again? I thought Nigeria government was the one dragging Nnamdi Kanu. Now, Nnamdi Kanu has continued to drag the federal government again. Where are they dragging all these things to? So, the lawyer explained a simple, something for me, of which I'm going to read this article and analyze it for you. However, the lawyer told me that Nnamdi Kanu is going back to Supreme Court because not that Supreme Court found him guilty, but Supreme Court, after condemning the atrocities of the federal government, after saying Nnamdi Kanu did not jump in and so on and so forth, that Supreme Court relied on a law that is not existing again to send Nnamdi Kanu back to Federal High Court for prosecution, like let him go back there, let them start the case from Federal High Court again. That Nnamdi Kanu went back to the Supreme Court because Supreme Court cannot rely on a law that does not exist in the Constitution in a written law. So he explained a lot of things for me. So before I tune in my camera, I said, okay, let me speak what I know about this. And I'm going to speak more, not on the law aspects, not on the law context, but on the intention behind the erroneous laws. All these things you are saying, it is the intention and interest of the people. And that is why both the UN report and so many international communities report, the judiciary and the Nigerian police force are the most corrupt institution in Nigeria. How can you rely on erroneous law to detain somebody because Muhammadu Buhari's administration was the one that was holding Nnamdi Kanu, so they can manipulate the judiciary, they can ask them to do whatever they want to do. By the way, Kudirat Kekere, she's a judge that was bound not to enter US, and she was one of the key actors, one of the judges that asked Nnamdi Kanu to go back to the High Court after condemning the federal government of the atrocities they level against him. And who is she today? I think she is the chief judge. So we live in a country where there is no rule of law, but interest is prevailing against the rule of law. That is the reality on ground. And that is why someone like Showore has been raising alarm, because he himself is always in the court. According to him, when I see a useless court case, I will know that Nnamdi Kanu case is just a useless court case because the intention of the federal government is not because this man is guilty. By the way, if Nnamdi Kanu is guilty, they can't be telling him, drop your agitation, let us leave you. If they claim that the reason why they are holding Nnamdi Kanu is because of what he committed, why then telling him to drop your agitation so that you will leave him? Logic, we have to think. If actually they are determined to pursue justice, then why telling the same man, drop your agitation, let us leave you? It is an evidence to tell you that the reason why they are holding him is not because he committed anything, but because of BIAFRA agitation. All right, that is just the introduction of this. Now, you can see this report from Sarah Reporters that reads that Nnamdi Kanu heads back to Supreme Court to challenge 2023 erroneous ruling. And this is the details. It reads that the detained leader of the indigenous people of Biafra IPOB, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, has returned to the Supreme Court of Nigeria, seeking to challenge the per-inquiry judgment that shook the foundation of justice and destroyed the rule of law. I like this statement, that shook the foundation of justice and destroyed the rule of law. Now, let's go to the second paragraph. It says that in a statement issued on Monday by his legal team and signed by Barrister Njokon Jude Njokon, entitled A Judgment That Destroyed Justice, Kanu's lawyer stated that the Supreme Court ruling of 15 December 2023, which overturned the Court of Appeals decision discharging Nnamdi Kanu, was not merely an error, but a conscious judicial maneuver designed to keep him in a perpetual captivity. According to the statement, the 5-member panel, led by Justice Garba Lawal with Justices Emmanuel Ajem, Kudirat Kekere Eko, Tijani Abubakar, and Ibrahim Musa Saunawa, concurrent, knowingly rely on a repealed law to remand Kanu for trial. So, you see, this is the major context that my lawyer friend told me. He is a criminal lawyer, so he understands the trial of Nnamdi Kanu very well. That a court, a competent court, you know the reason why I continue to ask this? If actually what these lawyers are saying, what Nnamdi Kanu is saying, is totally correct, as I said before, I'm not a lawyer, that this court of law are relying on a repealed law, a law that does not exist in the Constitution, in a written law again, to judge this man. It will never be good at the end, though. It will never be good at the end if these people are actually relying on non-existing law. So it will expose the whole intention of holding this man. Because this is unacceptable. It is unacceptable to rely on a law that does not exist. That is to say that you can just wake up and say, you on this light. Why did you on the light? We'll sentence you to prison because you on light. And there is no law that states such a thing. You know, Falana was the first person that made this statement. Femi Falana made this statement before. When he made this statement, a lot of people did not understand what he meant. People started criticizing him. He said it's very difficult for you to jail Nnamdi Kanu because the law you are using to charge it does not exist. Falana made this statement. Now, let's continue with the article. It says, at the center of the controversy in the Terrorism Prevention Amended Act of 2013, which was repealed and replaced by Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act 2022, on 12 May 2022, more than a year before the Apex Court's judgment, the Supreme Court knew the law had died, acknowledged that a repealed status cannot sustain a criminal charge, yet proceed to resurrect a dead law to send Nnamdi Kanu back to the Federal High Court in Jogo alleged. I'm not a lawyer, okay? But if this is just exactly what it means that Nigeria cannot get well again. If these lawyers, judges, can see through a dead law and use it to charge someone, use it to judge someone, use it to be sustaining a judgment for someone to remain in detention, it is not going to end well. All right. He described the ruling as not an accident nor an intellectual slip, but a deliberate judicial ambush that misrepresented a dead law as a life. The statement argued that because the law under which Kanu was charged no longer existed, the Apex Court's decision was a jurisdictional nullity. A repealed law is a legal corpse. It cannot be revived, acted upon, or used to create criminal liability once the enabling status is abolished. The proceeding built upon it collapsed, Njogon stated. He added that by applying two contradictory legal positions in the same ruling, first admitting that a repealed law cannot sustain a charge, and then remitting Kanu for trial under the same law, the court lost jurisdiction. No crime of finality can shed a nullity. Where a judgment is rooted in illegality, the Supreme Court has inherent power and duty to purge its own record, he wrote. The legal team further accused the Supreme Court of breaching Section 122 of the Evidence Act of 2011, which obliged court to take judicial notice of all repeal or newly enacted laws. And this is what he said, he quote, by pretending that the Repeal 2013 Act was still in force, the court acted per inquirium in ignorance of a binding statutory duty, and Jogun contended. He insisted that a per inquirium judgment is not protected by the doctrine of finality, arguing that the apex court has in the past set aside its own decision made in similar circumstances. Beyond the legal technicalities, Njogu said 2023 judgment effectively crushed Kanu's constitutional protection against double jeopardy under Section 36(9) of the 1999 Constitution, which bars a person from being tried again after discharge or acquittal. The Court of Appeal had discharged Nnamdi Kanu, which triggered this constitutional shield, yet the Supreme Court stripped him of this right and sent him back to face the same charges the statement reads. So the article continues on and on. But let me stop it here. So what this provision or what this lawyer is saying for me, it is very simple. What Nnamdi Kanu lawyer said as well is very simple. If they are right, if the Nigerian courts are doing this because of Nnamdi Kanu, like I said, it is going to be a very terrible thing ahead. You see, what mistake Nigerians used to make, especially their political actors, they will deliberately make a mistake today, and tomorrow they will come out to write book of the error they committed. We don't want people to write book about Nnamdi Kanu. We don't want people to write book how they made mistake to kidnap Nnamdi Kanu. We don't want to write book of someone, a judge coming out to say that federal government forced him to sentence Nnamdi Kanu or to detain him forever. We don't want that. But that is the angle these people are going to. But we keep on watching and see what transpired. Let me know what you think about this.
In all these circumstances, has Nnamdi Kanu done anything that is almost 1% of what is going on in the rest of the country? Apart from occasional stops and gyration. Tell me what is happening in the Southeast. In fact, the Southeast might be the most peaceful place. Apart from this occasional stops of people kidnapping one thing or the other. And they do it as a result of protest on Nnamdi Kanu. There's a pretext to commit crime because Nnamdi Kanu is held. If this was a fairly intelligent government, if they release Nnamdi Kanu today, there will be 95% peace in the Southeast, and that will affect the rest of the country. Of all these governors, only Soludo of Anambra said had gone to DSS once to see him, if I'm not wrong, about a year or 2 years ago. He's gone there to see him, and after that, maybe his colleagues advised him not to get involved. Why are they afraid? The young man is very popular in the Southeast. Let me not extend it to the rest of the country. If Nnamdi Kanu comes out today, Igbos will do 90% of what he tells them to do, to the interest, not just in Igbo interest, but the Nigerian interest. Because what has he spoken about in the past? Mistreatment of his people. And if that is continuous and the rest of the country don't want the Igbos, then let them allow them go. This is the summary of what he's saying. How can you can't be shorter than me and be taller than me at the same time? This is the summary of Nnamdi Kanu's theory. So he didn't start today. Hazurike has done the same thing. There's so many other people. It was the concept of Odumegwu Ojukwu himself. If you don't want your people, then let them go. And as you know, when people talk of let them go, it appears we are packing our luggage and going. Look at the contiguity. Look at Nsukka and Benue. There's no place anybody is going. It's the same country. The same marketing, the same. So much of intermarriages has taken place. All we're saying that there is no governance. The summary is that there is no governance. That's what is causing all the problem. The problem of corruption has become both phenotypically and genotypically specific. That's nothing. It's a genetic problem now. And it is that crisis that government is not even ashamed that they said 139 million Nigerians very poor in a country of plenty. And my president John Case to Paris, from there to what is it called, to Dubai. I have never seen a group of people that are shameless. In a country, 774 local governments, I challenge them. Let them tell you where water is running. Where? Water. So people are dying because of waterborne diseases, and they don't care. And it's even more, like I was saying before we started this, if these governors were sons of Ahmadu Bello, or M.I. Okpara, or Azikiwe, or Awolowo, They will say, oh, they had determined their future. They are coming from a position, a background of wealth. But tell me which of these governors not coming from a very poor environment? Most of them, their parents have never been heard of. Most of them, when you hear the history of how they managed to go to secondary school, and finally God bless them, they become governors. So what they are paying back to society is stealing of money. I was telling somebody this morning who confronted me, Dan, what do we do? What do we do? Lead a democratic revolution. I said, I don't have the resources. I can't. I've been in PDP, not even director, because I won't comply with what they said. Yesterday we had a National Reconciliation Committee meeting. Out of 25 members, only 8 were there. So it means that part of those who have joined APC, majority are coming out from PDP. So going to APC, what is the fundamental, reason why you go to? It's because if you're moving from A to B, B must be better than A. So what has APC done that should be exciting to anybody to want to leave PDP? Because PDP has a track record under Obasanjo. There was debt relief that saved millions of lives in this country. Since then, what has happened? 8 years of Muhammad Buhari was a disaster in this country. I said it on this channel and other channels, even when he was in government. It was a disaster. There was no governance. And this president, when he was campaigning, said he was going to continue from where Buhari stopped. He's now seen the true nature of where Buhari stopped. How beautiful where Buhari stopped is for the rest of the country. Isn't that a tragedy? In 21st century Nigeria, with everything God has given us, we don't know where we are beginning and where. If you don't know where you're starting, how do you know where you're going? And we take it as a matter of routine. Nothing is going. It's in our case, they say, let's leave it for God. So we are the only people God created. If we decide to be foolish, then He will be foolish with us. That is still a battle of the continuation of the Nigerian Civil War. The war has not ended. I think it was on China's TV. I had an interview. Like I said, the day Nnamdi Kanu is released is the end of the Nigerian Civil War. And that will be the day the Southeast starts being integrated into the rest of the country. Look at insecurity everywhere. So is this government enjoying insecurity? That their citizens are being killed? Like you were saying something earlier on. Why are our governors in the South not interested? Because the boy will overwhelm everybody. It will be an MI Okpara. The people worship the name Nnamdi Kanu in the Southeast because he represents the summary of their struggle from before the Civil War, and thereafter. That's what